Ladies and gentlemen, today we turn to one of the existential problems of humanity. Since we began to think, we have been asking, who or what is God? No satisfactory answer has yet been found. Agni Yoga finally brings us closer to solving this mystery. Everything great is easy to understand. A complicated explanation is mostly wrong. You will see. This also applies to God. In fact, the Most High is particularly easy to understand. We assume that you have watched our broadcastings on evolution and hierarchy. Only on the basis of this knowledge, you may hope to come a step closer to understanding the phenomenon God. Do not be surprised to find an uncommonly great number of quotations from the Holy Scriptures in this broadcasting. This is because the Mahatmas, of course, are better able than me to explain the nature of God. Human beings have been seeking God since they exist. What he, the real man, the real woman desires above all else is God, and nothing less will satisfy. Possessing God, the soul possesses all things desirable. People are created that they should seek the Lord, if haply they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. You should not believe that the people of all times, of all faiths, and of all cultures lied or have been wrong. Throughout the history of humanity can be traced a recognition of the higher spirit, the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, and a great number of such concepts leading to the higher world. Such testimony of all ages and peoples must compel even the ignorant to reflect. All mankind cannot be mistaken. Under varying conditions, people have sensed the same supreme, ineffable origin. Human beings cannot exist without God. The atheist denies the divine spark, and thus the Most High, the holiest within himself. The blatant materialist or atheist knows in his heart he is not what he would have other men believe him to be. By his very nature, man must have a God. Every unsatisfied longing for love, devotion, truth, every wave of admiration for beauty, in whatever form that beauty is clothed. Every ambition for strength, power, and ability to build some lasting monument of his own skill is a half-recognized cry to the God the materialist claims to disbelieve in. The mouthings, cursings, and invective of the atheist, or his silent contempt for others who loudly profess their faith and believe in God, in reality spring from the revolt of the outraged God in himself. In truth, atheism is ignorance. They who deny God have not seen him. God dwells in every heart. Woe to those who expel God. Those who do not recognize God sink to the level of the animals. The man who does not think about the highest is turned into a creeping reptile. The negation of the Most High is an unscientific lie, incompatible with evolution, which we must fight, with purely spiritual means, of course. Godlessness must be eradicated. The fact is that it is better to preserve even fragments of the cognizance of hierarchy, even in conventional forms, than to be cast into the abyss of chaos. When people heard about the unattainability of the highest, they began to reject in general everything invisible. Therefore, by my command, godlessness, which has assumed the aspect of most obvious Satanism, will be prosecuted. One cannot tolerate any longer such involution. We had said before, Agni Yoga is a synthesis of science and religion. In order to grasp the whole reality, consisting of both matter and spirit, we require a new way of cognition, which reconciles intellectual research with the spiritual knowledge of the heart. This new divine science provides insights that were previously inaccessible to humanity and considered unheard of. It enables us to develop a scientific concept of God, which satisfies the longing of both the mystic and the scholar. The world of the future requires a new understanding of God. The new immortal man regards himself as someone who is on the path to God. He no longer believes in the old man with a white beard. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man. The man of the future sets out to search for God with scientific methods. That does not mean proving the existence of God by the means of classical physics or chemistry. Rather, we must involve the straight knowledge of the heart and develop a concept of God which goes beyond all reason, but does not contradict the laws of reason either. The time is coming when even the loftiest concepts have to be proven by science. It is a mistake to apply our limited earthly concepts to the highest, which will remain for a long time unrecognizable and unattainable to us. There are things much greater than our small, all too human imagination is able to grasp. Esoteric philosophy refuses to accept any of the gods of the so-called monotheistic religions. gods created by man in his own image and likeness, a blasphemous and sorry caricature of the ever unknowable. Up to today, we have not gone beyond the primitive view of representing God as a being like you and me. The gods of the people are very different, but they have one thing in common. They all are anthropoid. We must overcome this wrong and unscientific idea. One should not lower the highest, but elevate it. Therefore, the first requisite will be to create the divine image according to divinity. When the human consciousness will cease to depict divinity in an earthly way, then the attainment of the spirit will be theory. Already the Greek philosopher Xenophanes made fun of the gods created in the image of man. He wittily pointed out that oxen would imagine their gods in the image of oxen. What does the god of the tavern keepers look like? The loftiest consciousness strives toward the theory principle, while the lower one creates the image of the highest in its own likeness. The capacity of the small consciousness will determine the created image, hence so many obvious distortions. How is it possible to fill a small consciousness with a universal principle? Our earthly standards are not applicable to this supreme supermundane reality. We must not limit the absolute. Verily, there is nothing more sacrilegious for the human consciousness than to limit the ineffable grandeur of the divine principle that is poured out over the entire universe. Assuredly, from this monstrous, ignorant belittling issue all the unworthy concepts of God. Man, in his conceit, tries to bring everything down to his own level and likeness. Earthly measure is not applicable to the grandeur of cosmos. It is impossible to limit the unlimited. If we begin to limit the absolute by our own perception, it will cease to be the absolute and will become limited. Therefore, the absolute cannot be conceived, for it includes in itself also the concept of infinity. Therefore, we can perceive only the various aspects and manifestations of this absolute. If we reduce the highest to our small human measure, we belittle and even besmirch it, which amounts to blasphemy. Bringing everything down to the level of the lowest is the labor of the dark ones. Who can say where begins the ineffable? Who dares to measure something which is not permitted to be uttered? But the heart knows and can guard against a pronouncement of blasphemy. A poor imagination often belittles that which it wishes to glorify. One of the greatest and most disastrous errors of humanity is to separate God from the rest of nature. Thereby he becomes a theoretical abstraction and ceases to be alive. In fact, as we have already said, there is nothing supernatural in the universe. Everything is real. That means cognizable and perceptible. There cannot be anything supernatural or unnatural, beyond, besides, outside, or above reality, that is, nature. Everything, really everything, up to God, is part of nature. There cannot be anything unnatural in nature. Even God is a product of evolution, just as natural as every stone, every plant, every animal, every human being, as everything else that exists. He ascended to his height through infinite labor, from circumstances which were no better than ours today. One of the most important statements of Agni Yoga is: there is no God who was not man at one time. All gods must undergo human evolution. Everything, really everything, up to God, is subject to the laws of nature. Therefore, the idea of a punitive or forgiving God is wrong. The consequences of good or bad deeds are regulated by karma. Even God cannot interfere with the working of this cosmic law, which makes sure that justice reigns in the universe.